Today I'm going to look at this gigantic Citrix 110 appliance. It's 110 with no dashes or anything like that. It's kind of an odd model number. This is one of their net scaler units, and this particular one comes with 4 gigabit Ethernet ports on the front, copper based, and 4 of these gigabit small form factor pluggable ports, which give you more gigabit, but they use these little transceivers. So you would take one of these, and you pop it in, and it gives you a specific type of gigabit Ethernet fiber. And then you just pull the little thing to take them out, and this one obviously takes 4 of them. They're kind of cool. They look very Star Trek. So yeah, I kind of like them. Unfortunately, I don't use fiber for anything in the home, so it's not that useful, but they're kind of cool. I saved these from some other thing I got on eBay a long time ago, and I've never used them, but I guess they came in handy today. The front of mine has a bunch of these stupid stickers and stuff all over it, and funnily enough, the original little covering for the LCD is still intact. Ooh. This is listed as an application delivery platform, so I'm fairly certain it's really just for like fancy web services and I don't know what else. It may do WAN type links for other buildings. I'm not sure. I'm fairly certain it's simply just for handling web services and stuff to perhaps other servers, but I can't find too much information on it. Around back we've got dual power supplies. I've taken one out because I intend to take it apart, and they each have 2 little 40 millimeter fans. Got a momentary power switch, a red button here which I think is just reset. This is a 100 base T Ethernet port. I think it's for management. And there's a hot swap bay here with a Hitachi 7200 RPM 80 gig drive, and it's a serial ATA, but you can see it's one of the older ones that still has a Molex power connector in addition to the power connector from serial ATA. It's obviously not too new. Alright, now we can see the layout of this thing. It's actually surprisingly clean inside. You know, you expect these things to get so much use that they're just filthy. Got a big power connector coming into the custom motherboard with a big ferrite, which should be removable. Oh, there's another ferrite over there. Those should be nice. This shroud is here to direct the flow from these 2, I think, 60 millimeter fans over the 2 processors. The nice copper heatsink. Obviously this system only comes with one. They have multiple models, so I think a higher end one does actually use both. You can tell by the screws that are attached to the actual case that, well, not screws, the actual receptacles, are that this is a socket 604 or maybe 603. I can't remember if they use the same screw design, but basically your heatsink bolts through the motherboard to the case, which is both good and mostly annoying because on one hand you get, you know, added strength because you're clamping everything together, but on the other hand you can't take the motherboard out without removing the processor heatsink, which means you have to put on new thermal paste, and it's a real pain in the ass. It doesn't matter, I'm not going to keep this thing. The cage for the power supply is very big because they're 500 watt power supplies, and there's 2 of them. There's also a CF reader over here. Lots of little heat sinks on everything, which is useful because I can pop all of these off and keep them. It comes fully loaded with memory, which is, looks like DDR2. I think it's DDR2. I'm fairly certain this is just Pentium 4. Because I think only Pentium 4 based Xeons came in the 604 sockets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe plug it in. I don't think there's much point. I might plug it in just to see how loud it is. But this has no video output. So I really don't think me fiddling around in a command line is too interesting. So I'll just run an unerase on the hard drive and take a look at the CF card, see if there's anything of interest on either of them, and there probably isn't. I think Citrix just runs CentOS, a modified version of it. Not too interesting. We'll see what's on it though. But let's power this thing up and see how much power it draws. Okay, I'm just going to power this up. I have to hit the red clear alarm button right away because it starts beeping like crazy about the missing power supply. So here we go. So that's the alarm. As you can see, it has a ridiculous glowing display with two very bright LEDs right here and here. And the display, which is kind of washed out, is saying the NS110 is now booting. After a little while, all it did was turn off the LCD. Is that a good thing? I don't know. Is it supposed to do that? I don't know. While removing the hard drive, I noticed that there's a little sticker here. And it actually lets you get to the CF card, which is a nice little warranty void system. I'll just pop out the card. This is a Unigen? That's weird. Enterprise level CF card. I have never seen that company before. I am sure it is just a generic CF card that's been rated for enterprise use. The CF card assembly has a couple little odd things. One, there's actually a hidden button here. It's been screwed in onto this little plate, and there's also a spot for another button. And there is actually a hole that lets you press the button through the case. It's not marked. I assume it's reset, but you know, there's nothing that says what it does on it. The CF card reader looks like a standard parallel ATA to CF card unit. CF cards use this, the same interface. It's just wired differently. So they can have a passive adapter. They need power, so there's a little 4-pin Molex connector here. And there's a small board for the Ethernet and the switch. This Ethernet is for the management, I believe. And it's actually being run with an internal Ethernet cable. And all the wires are really nicely tied to everything. There's a 40mm fan up here that's kind of hard to see. It's a little off camera. It's a Sun-On 40mm. It is probably one of the louder things in this case. And yeah, this is actually very nice. I'm going to start disassembling everything because I want to separate all the metal to just throw in the recycling. While taking apart this section, I noticed that there's this metal plate here that sits right here. And it's got two spots to screw something down to, and I noticed it's actually got a PCB edge guide here. So I'm not sure if a different model comes with a different slot here. Maybe they use different CF card readers, or maybe you can even get an expansion card here and they use a different case. But seems like a weird thing to install on a case that is not using it. They run a wire out to the reset switch, and it has like 50 feet of cable that's actually nicely wire tied, or clipped. Actually, it's clipped and wire tied at the same time. And it goes to a nice little connector, a little two-position connector. I've seen these before, I don't remember the name of them. But yeah, I don't know why they need this much cable in here. With a bit of rubbing alcohol, I got most of the heatsink compound off the very, very nice and heavy copper heatsink. This is going to go on my big pile of copper. One day I will sell it, I guess. I don't know what it's for, but it's building up and I should probably do something with it. We also have the CPU, which is a socket 604. It's the, let me see if I can get this the right way. Lots of glare. This is a Xeon 3400 DP, which is a 3.4 gigahertz, 800 megahertz front side bus, 64-bit, 103 watt CPU. It has no extra features like hyper threading or turbo boost. None of that didn't exist at the time. It's single core. As with all Pentium 4 base things, it's pretty useless. Just gonna get rid of it. Doesn't do much. God, this alcohol always, I use this spray alcohol. It always makes your hand white after, but the price you pay for not getting heatsink compound on it, I guess. This is the LCD from the unit. This is a Matrix Orbital LK162-12-WB-C166. These are serial-based LCDs, as you can see by the 9-pin serial connector. This particular one uses a little low-profile connection to the motherboard. These wires are always useful. These are basically a standard character LCD, as you can see by the 16 pins, with a small board attached behind it with, I think this is actually an Atmel. Yeah, it's an Atmel. It's an AT Mega chip. Yeah, sometimes they have PICs on it. The two main players in this arena are Crystal Fonts and Matrix Orbital. I think Matrix Orbital is Canadian. I'm not 100% sure. But these things you do have to watch out for, because even though they have this standard 4-pin Molex connector, it is not a standard pinout. If you plug like a floppy drive power connector into it, it just fries it. No idea why the hell the assholes did this, but hey, it's what they do. So yeah, they also has GPIO pins. So these things can actually do more than just display characters. Most of them, I don't know if this particular one can, but most of them have the ability to do things like restart the computer, actually input key presses, that sort of thing. So they're actually quite advanced. They're usually very expensive, like $50-$60 for just a simple, $2 LCD with a controller. But hey, it's the price you pay for convenience of not having to design the thing. This one actually has space for a 3-pin power connector. The only thing you gotta watch out for on these, aside from the power connector pinout, is the fact that, oh, it actually says made in Canada. Hey, just like me. You have to watch out for ones with custom firmware. Crystal Font seems to be the one that's the main problem with these, with custom firmware, because yeah, you'll get ones that you just can't do anything with. The software won't detect them, nothing works. So yeah, you can use LCD Smarty in Windows to control these. You can output your CPU temperature, all sorts of stuff. These are the two ferrite beads I took off the power supply cables. Very, very nice. They clip together. They just snap on. This is one of the two CPU coolers. They're 80mm fans, I think. I thought they were 60, but that's pretty big. I think that's 80. These are Sunon model. They're 9.1 watts, and they're actually the main source of all the noise in the computer. They use these brackets that clip into the case, and you can just pop them out for easy servicing, except for the fact this wire runs all the way through the case and is twisted with all the other wires. So to actually service this, you have to unclip this and then basically unhook every single wire that's going out to the front. It's got all the other fans. There's 2 fans tied in with this one. There's also the reset switch, the power switch, and the power connections to the CF card reader. So it's like, oh look, we made this modular so you can take it out. Oh yeah, I hope you don't mind disassembling everything else in the back of the case. This is the hot swap bay. It has a 4-pin Molex connector at the back, serial ATA, some jumpers for setting whatever. The front is this kind of standard clip design, and if you look carefully on the board, it actually has 2 LEDs. This one's bicolor, and they go through this long light pipe, well, 2 light pipes all the way along to the front, and you actually get a blue, it was 2 blue LEDs, I think, which was a little odd considering it's bicolor. You can tell by the fact that it's got, oh no, it's blue and red. It's actually labeled on the board. Yeah, you can tell by the fact it's got 4 connections, so yeah, and 2 resistors. So yeah, it's just a kind of standard hot swap bay, but it's nicely done. This came with the shortest serial ATA cable ever. Completely useless. This is the board that lights up on the front of the case. One thing I noticed is that it's got these 6 LEDs lighting up the logo, but it also has 2 small connectors. Oops, wrong way. It has 2 small connectors for these individual LEDs that were those 2 bright points of light on the front of the case. Ridiculous. How much did this cost? Why does Citrix do this in every one of their computers? It's just so pointless. The board just has power in and a bunch of resistors and the connectors. There's actually space for 3 of these lights, but this particular one only uses the 2. This is the management Ethernet cable connector thing. And one thing I noticed is that the connectors have LEDs on them, both of them, even though one is inside the case. Obviously it's, you know, cheaper to buy 2 of the same one than it is to buy 2 different ones, even if the one without LEDs is a bit cheaper. I noticed that it has this extra connector that plugs in here, and the color codes tell me that it's probably power at first. But when I looked on the motherboard, it's actually sending signals to the LEDs, which, you know, makes sense when you think about it. It also came with about a 1 foot long Ethernet cable to plug into it. Yeah, it's a little over-engineered, but, you know, it's nice. This probably functions as an extender. You can probably connect one Ethernet cable to another with this without any issues. Starting off in this corner, we've got all the serial ports. There's 2 little MOSFETs down here. They had a little itty bitty heatsink just sitting on top of them. It fell right off. It's got the little thermal pad on it. And yeah, it's just sitting here. This must be a switch mode power supply for maybe the Ethernet controllers. I'm not 100% sure. Or possibly the memory, actually. You've got the incoming power. And moving along, we've got these Broadcom BCM 5704. These are dual gigabit Ethernet controllers. They're 64-bit PCI-X based, and there's 4 of them, all with little heat sinks. And you've got the magnetics for the connections and all of your SFP connectors with the... They do have lights here. There's LEDs on the front, and there aren't any on the actual case, so they must be covered up. Board's very densely packed over here with many large BGA packages. These 3 are SL8GG chips. I'm not really sure what they are. I think they're PCI controllers to allow all these extra devices on the PCI bus. We've got the CMOS battery. This is the main memory management controller. It's made by Intel, and it's the SL8EE, which is the E7520 chipset. It's the memory controller hub. This giant BGA package is a Cavium Networks Nitrox CN1220. It's an SSL accelerator. It can handle up to 28,000 simultaneous connections. It can compress at up to 2 gigs a second, or 2 gigabits. It has a 200 megabit per second random number generator, and it can have up to 1 gig of RAM. I don't see any memory around it, and there's actually a space set aside for another one of these. You can see just how many tiny little balls this thing connects with. Massive BGA package. I'm going to hang on to this. I'll pop it off the board. I tend to hang on to these kind of chips and open them up, see how big the dies are. And some of them you can even take a look at the actual chip itself with the microscope, but more modern chips are a lot harder to see just because they like flip the package. Down in this corner there's a bright red PCI slot, PCI-X 64-bit. This small connector, which I originally thought was a 2.5 inch style hard drive connector, is actually the IPMI interface. IPMI is a remote management system used on a lot of workstations. Over here we've got just the general, BIOS and serial port controllers and whatnot. There's a small 100 base T Ethernet controller right here, which connects to this port, which is what runs off to the little adapter board. I did notice there is actually a video card on this, well, a video chip. There's a Rage XL from ATI. It does have a header here for a VGA connector, and I do have this from a previous teardown, which has the right kind of connector. I was not able to get a signal. So either it's disabled or they use a different pinout. I don't know if this is actually a standardized pinout. This could be something totally different. This may be custom to whatever board I took this from, I don't remember. And we've got some parallel and whatnot. Another serial port, and I don't know. Oh, these are all the LED and the power connectors and different front panel things for a standard PC. This whole motherboard is actually made by a company called iWill. It's the CX 10000, and I did find pictures of it online. The bottom edge has 4 fan connectors. These are what the big blower fans for the CPUs are hooked up to. Here you can see all the power circuitry for the individual processors, the MOSFETs, the chokes, and capacitors. Very, very high quality. This whole board is very, very densely packed. Very, very nice quality. And just, chipset stuff, standard Intel chipset stuff. And some more power. MOSFETs and stuff. I wonder what these are running, and it looks like there's a little poly fuse down here. And yeah, not much else on the board. It's just a bunch of big, expensive BGA packages. This may be hard to read on camera just because I can't get the camera in close enough. This actually says deviation on it, revision F. I'm not sure what that's about. Tons of decoupling on the SSL processor. There's actually all the passives were installed for this one too. I don't know why they'd install them if there's no chip installed, but they're probably buying in such bulk that it doesn't matter. Each Ethernet controller has a little bit of stuff behind it. Very densely packed board on both sides. Here's one of the 2 power supplies. This is an Emax model. It's the R2W6500P-R. It's 500 watts, which is 43 amps max on the 3.3 and 5 volt combined. And we will take a look inside this thing. I expect this thing to be covered in thermal grease. I expect it to be made with very high quality components. Probably not the greatest components, but pretty good. These are probably clamping a heatsink down. And their QC past sticker is also their warranty void sticker, it seems. Pretty common. I'll take the screw out even though I don't know what it's doing. Alright, just some thermal pads on the top. Pull these things off so I can recycle this properly. And it's just a rather sturdy piece of aluminum. It's actually quite tough. And inside we've got more thermal pads, to be expected. Get that out of the way. That out of the way. Let me see if I can get this board out. Fan connectors are actually silicone gooped in. That's annoying. As is all the thermal compound on the top. Get some of this off my hands. I think it's just on these. Ugh. Alright. Getting somewhere. Hang on. go. So on this end, just the fans and a little filter for the input voltage or input connection, and a grounding strap. Alright, so here's the power connector to the rack mount cage. As you can see, it's huge pins and quite a few of them. We've got big Hitachi filter caps, huge chokes, just massive. This is probably all active power correction. There's the bridge rectifier right here with a nice metal L-shaped heatsink just attached to it. Big high voltage cap. The main switching devices are tucked away in here. There's a couple more over here, and this is a 7805 5-volt regulator. This is probably another one I couldn't really see. These are all Nippon Chemicon KY series caps. You can see the current sense resistance wire in here. Pretty impressive. Very, very beefy. It's like a high-end multimeter. Everything's nicely glued down, at least all the big stuff. Huge components. You can really tell this thing's 500 watts, and they're not kidding. There's a, I think this might be the main switching controller in here. It's a 5 lead TO220. Massive. This is where the power supplies connect to on the back plane. You can see the huge solder connections for the 5 volt and the 3.3 volt lines, and these gigantic jumper links. I mean, these things are just massive. Look at that. Huge jumper links. These are obviously carrying the bulk of the current between the two. A little resistor and some caps. Every single cap that I saw in here is actually 105 degree rated, Nichicon or Nippon Chemicon, you know, some quality brand. Very, very top quality, high quality construction. And here's the line that goes to the alarm reset switch, and it's actually connected right to this board with the alarm controller on it. Focus. There we go. This is the little alarm controller. It's obviously checking probably voltage on 5 volt or something to see if it's still getting power from the power supply, and then it starts buzzing, and this will reset it. Very, very, very nice board. Very, very heavy duty. Well, in the end, this is just kind of a cool motherboard. Not too useful. I did find nothing on the internal serial ATA hard drive. Zero. It was unformatted. No files. Wasn't able to erase anything. So I guess the system was never used, and that's why it's not very dirty on the inside. The little LCD cover was still on it. The CF card actually did have a DOS install, and it had drivers for the Broadcom Ethernet. So my guess is that just gets it started and then it switches over to the hard drive, but there was nothing installed on it. This thing probably does run Windows once you've set everything up and it transfers over from the CF card to it. I find it unlikely that it runs DOS only. There wasn't really anything else on the CF card, although it was full. This is going on while I'm trying to shoot this. Moose! You're not Moose, you're Leo. Moose! You clean yet? Moose? Yeah.